parents are immigrants, but they're U.S. citizens. And in theory, they have very little to worry about, but they see, mom, dad, we're black and brown. We're called immigrants at school. We're seeing our friends being taken away or our friends' parents being taken away. We're seeing the news. Do we have things to be worried about? And what do you tell your kids as a parent, right? That's especially heartbreaking. Um, Bench warrants, even for minor police actions, are up. What does this mean? So it means someone who may not have a current status in this country. Maybe they've been here for 10 years. They're pulled over for a minor traffic violation. They're afraid to even pay that. They're afraid of that interaction. They don't pay it. They end up getting a bench warrant. They're afraid to go to court now because now they have what U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services and the Federal Immigration Enterprise will call derogatory information in their case file and could be subject to further immigration action based on that. What else are we seeing? We're seeing a brain drain from the Philly area already. So employers are already making tough hiring decisions based on immigration. And I'll just give one example. In the past, Philly's many foreign-born physicians, especially our many like research-intensive and surgical-intensive specialties, they were recruited out to the Midwest or rural areas. Now they're being recruited to Canada. In the past 2 weeks, we've just lost three of our country's leading academic clinical surgeons just in the Penn Medicine health system, who happen to be African Americans, happen to be immigrants. They were just recruited to Canada. All of their research, millions upon millions of dollars in research, goes to Canada with them, right? So these are jobs in Philly that sort of go with them. And obviously, there's a lot of reasons that go into that brain drain. But the bottom line, what at least two of those surgeons are going to tell you is their kids felt unsafe in school here in Philly. And again, their kids were first and second generation U.S. citizens. Businesses are making some tough business decisions based on national immigration, employment authorization. These EADs, they're a tough issue, even for folks with current immigration status, but U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service is purposely obscuring and obfuscating the processes to renew employment authorization. So you're going to see in the next few months, you're going to see a lot of folks who have jobs, who have current immigration status, but they're going to find it really hard to renew their EADs with USCIS, partly because USCIS has gutted staff levels, as one of the big staff exoduses from there, and they're not replacing the staff who do those types of adjudications. What are the real needs right now? Bottom line, most importantly, and you'll hear this from our legal services folks like ISPA, access to legal services. So demand around immigration legal services and representation is at historic levels, while capacity, if anything, has been reduced. There used to be federal money out there through U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services as a grant-making organization to support access to like citizenship education and other things that a lot of our nonprofit partners here in and around Philadelphia would do with that federal money. That federal money no longer exists, right? All of that money that used to go out there in the community to support the legal pathways to immigration, that's all being put into immigration enforcement. So access to legal services now is unprecedented. Access to information regarding the impacts of even minor law enforcement activities on immigration adjudication. So again, we don't want people to be scared, but we want people to understand that there are some serious impacts to, that things are going to have, and access to legal services only compounds those issues. If someone's got access to an attorney and legal representation from the start, they're going to be better informed. They're going to know the merits of their case. So, and then finally on this section, conversations with neighbors who either employ immigrants or with neighbors who, let's just say, support immigration enforcement. Conversations with community organizations. There's just so much misinformation and disinformation out there about immigration in general. Bottom line, Philly is a city of immigrants. Within the next few years, the data is going to show that 1 in 5 Philadelphians are going to be foreign born. Right now, we're just over 16%. And that, even in spite of the national climate, that population continues to grow. People are still choosing to move to Philadelphia, choosing to stay here through all of the various pathways, the overwhelming preponderance of which are very quote unquote legal pathways to immigration. That's family unification, that's employment authorization and employment sponsorship immigration. And that's folks who just move here and fall in love with our city and like my wife, fall in love with the Philadelphia and decide they want to stay here as well and pursue family unification in that manner. So what is actually helpful? Listen, you'll hear from Asylum Pride House, you'll hear from ISPA, you'll hear from other organizations getting involved in general, combating that misinformation with some of your neighbors, with some of your constituents, with some of your community members, with some members of your houses of worship who might hold some of those anti-immigration sentiments. It's really important that they maybe see the civic, the economic, and most importantly, the human impacts that this recent things are taking on our city. And then what volunteer opportunities are critical now? Look, there is no shortage of ways to get involved. If you're an attorney, highly encourage you to get involved in that realm. If you have if you have the pulpit to spread good information, highly encourage you to share the good information of community members who may happen to be immigrants who are contributing valuable services to our city. If you get a mammogram in Philadelphia right now at any one of our major academic institutions, there's something like a 33% chance that your mammogram is going to be read by a foreign-born US trained radiologist. And that's one of the many examples of immigrants who contribute to public health, public safety, clean and green, and all the other civic and economic and cultural and human drivers of our city. So I'll be very brief there. I want to cede a minute to Randy Duque, who leads our Philadelphia Human Relations Commission. Randy, do you just want to give some quick perspective from your end, and then we can move on to the next speaker?
Sure, thank you, Charlie. Um, Again, my name is Randy Duque. I'm with the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations, and if you're not familiar with what a Human Relations Commission does, we enforce civil rights and laws, and we are the peacemaking agency here for the city of Philadelphia. Um, I wanted to really focus in on a specific part of the work that we do with respect to immigrant and refugee communities. Now, from a public safety standpoint, through our interagency civil rights task force, which is a coordination effort that we do for the city to combat and prevent and respond to hate as it occurs in the city, we have a strong relationship with communication with our various law enforcement agencies here in the city and the region. With that said, one rumor that's been going around was that people are talking about Philadelphia being the next Minneapolis, and from like extensive conversations I've had with various law enforcement, both in federal and state and local, there is no chatter about that. Now, again, anything can change, but there hasn't been any chatter recently or even in the past about any mass movement here in Philadelphia. So I share this because like it's good to be prepared, but we don't want a panic here when when it's better to think clearly, um, and move through again what we're all talking about in terms of ways we can help our immigrant community. So one thing I would really stress to people is if people are talking about like they're hearing, there's going to be some kind of mass operation here, that's not true, right? And I will let you know if that changes. In the meantime, from a public safety perspective, we still encourage people if they're experiencing like hate, intimidation, um, because of their status, because of their being immigrants, to report this type of hate, so we know it's going on and we can help try to organize responses to that. And oftentimes it could be criminal too. Our Philly Police Department has pledged from the top all the way down that they are here to keep people safe and to stop crime. So I just really wanted to share that real quickly. And if you live and are outside a county, I know the Pennsylvania State Police also are have that same pledge as well. Um, and we can always connect with other regional like government or law enforcement if needed in terms of any concerns you might have outside of Philadelphia County and City. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Randy. We're going to continue with Catherine. I just want to remind people who have questions, place them in the chat. Uh, People who are just joining us, we're going through the information that's being shared first, and then we're going to do a round of Q&A. So thank you, Catherine.
Yes, good afternoon, and thanks everybody for joining. I was thrilled to get this invitation. Many of you I know, but some of you I don't. And thank you very much, Charlie, for what you said and really highlighting down to an individual level what we're losing. And that's kind of where I want to pick up my remarks. Quite clearly, anyone who watches a headline or listens to the news knows that immigrants are under attack and that terrible things are happening on the federal level. Um, so that's not a secret. But I think something that is really critical for you all to do and for you to urge your congregants to do is to make it absolutely clear to Congress as well as your state and local legislators that immigrants are welcome. Um, Part of the problem, if you will, that seems like such a small word of the murders that ICE did that we all saw, and the federal government's reaction was a justifiably kind of pointed focus on ICE's lawlessness. Now, don't get me wrong, ICE is lawless and they need to stop murdering people. But what has happened in that kind of laser focused anti-ICE movement is that the bigger picture, the government is getting away with the bigger picture, which is attacking immigrants, which is like clearly stating that immigrants are our enemies. And so I want to kind of highlight an analogous movement to help you understand, you know, the civil rights movement was not about more politely enforcing Jim Crow. The civil rights movement was about the fact that Jim Crow was not constitutional, was not legal, was not morally correct. That is the moment where we are as a nation. Our Immigration and Nationality Act is amoral and has provisions that violate the Constitution. And that's really what's happening is we've created a federal enforcement um, body to enforce a law that is wrong. So it's no amount of training and politeness and de-escalation is going to help this situation if we don't fix our immigration laws, and that requires Congress. So I really urge, I think this is an opportunity because we're having a crisis, an American crisis of lawlessness, of violence. This is an opportunity to highlight the fact that our immigration laws are wrong. And ICE can never be fixed because it's an enforcement branch that makes no sense for a law that is wrong. And the enforcement should be civil. So it should never ever involve detention. Detention is a criminal remedy. So the fact that people are rounding people up, even if they are undocumented, and saying, well, because you're undocumented, you violated the Immigration Nationality Act, and therefore you should be detained. That is wrong. It is not criminal to be undocumented, nor should it be. So I really, really want to urge that people focus on the real core issue, which is the Immigration Nationality Act. Don't get distracted by ICE. ICE is just the tip of the iceberg, if you pardon my pun. Yes, we shouldn't fund ICE. Yes, they're immoral. Yes, they're lawless, but they're acting, the government has enacted this authority to enforce a law that is bad and that needs to be fixed. Um, we have, and so getting more concrete about how you can help. We are starting this Thursday with letter writing for volunteers, and I've created talking points. I'm happy to share the talking points with you. You don't have to come to the letter writing party to get them. We're going to have these letter writing parties once a month. But I urge you and your congregants to be calling Congress every single day. And let me just say here, I know that many of you have already been calling Congress, and you may feel very, frustrated, like you're not getting anywhere, like it's a black hole. But there's two things that I want to urge you to not give up at all. And if anything, ramp up your calling congressional efforts. The first thing is something that has always been true, which is that every single congressperson has a staffer whose job it is to tally the issues that their constituents are calling about. And they tally them per day. And then at the end of the week, they report to the congressperson how many calls on immigration, how many calls on taxes, how many calls on healthcare. And that guides the congressperson on what they're going to pay attention to, because these are voters, right, that are calling them and saying, I demand that you do something about this. And and I'm sure there have been an uptick of calls since Renee Good and Alex Preedy's murders about defunding ICE. Um, but it's still a question how many, right? They are tallying every single call that they're getting. So that's the first reason why you shouldn't get up, but give up. But the second reason why you should not only not give up, but also ramp up is because of the opportunity that this crisis presents. People are finally paying attention. People are appalled. The current federal government is losing support because people are seeing murder and mayhem, violation of constitutional rights. So this is a moment when people really are ready to listen. So don't lose the moment. Call, write every single day.
Hmm.
Now, back to the talking points, which again, I'm happy to share with you. I want to confess that they're lengthier than what you would consider a normal talking point. They have several sets of issues, and some context and some background, even a couple of footnotes. Don't be overwhelmed by that. It's because I want you to come from an educated perspective when you write your letters. For writing the letters, you can cut and paste from my talking points if you want and just add a personal statement, or you can just read them, get the gist, and write your own letter. Or you can do a combination, put in your own words what I have. I'm not possessive about my talking points, so don't worry about quoting me or anything like that. Um, and you also should feel free when we send you the talking points. If there's something that I wasn't clear about, please ask. Because one of the major precursors to actually helping is educating yourself. Because immigration law is really confusing. Nobody thinks you're stupid if you don't understand something, if you feel like you're asking the same question twice. There is no judgment. It's really important that the American public grasp what the law says, what it doesn't say, and what it should say.
Hmm.
So I encourage you to read. I encourage you to ask questions, and then finally, I demand as much as I can that you and your constituents write letters and make calls every single day. Get Congress's attention about this issue. They are keeping track, and it does matter. You also can call your state legislators, even though the state has no control over immigration, because it's a federal issue. The state certainly does have control around the edges. So, for example, ICE is trying to purchase two or three facilities in Pennsylvania, to create more detention. That's all we need is more prisons, right? And more lawlessness. There's also a pending bill about driver's licenses, which right now in Harrisburg, we can't even talk about the bill because so many people in Harrisburg believe that fundamentally it's good to go after immigrants, which it's not fundamentally good. It's bad for Americans. It's bad for the economy. It's bad for our families. It's bad for our morals. It's bad for our religious teachings. So it's worth talking to Pennsylvania legislators about what immigrants bring, about stop attacking people who are on American soil for a variety of reasons and who are doing nothing but trying to support their families and contribute to all of us who are paying taxes, whether they're documented or undocumented, and who are making our lives richer and who are participating in what it means to be an American. Because America is, after all, a country of immigrants. So it's worth making those calls because if we can get the state legislators to back off of their virulent um, kind of based on lies position about immigrants, then we can make Pennsylvania a more welcoming place, and we can maybe make it so that we don't lose these incredible surgeons and these incredible people who give back to us. So the state calls are also important. And then on the city level, for those of you that are Philadelphia residents, there is currently a package pending in City Council. It's called ICE Out. It's a collection of legislative proposals that would make Philadelphia a safer city. And I use that word intentionally. Philadelphia is not, nor will it ever be, a sanctuary city. Sanctuary means that you're absolutely free. Um, the truth is, the law of federalism means that the federal law enforcement does have authority to detain people until and unless Congress changes that. And there is nothing that city council can do to prevent them from detaining people. But there are things that we can do to make the detentions more lawful, to ensure that there are judicial warrants, to ensure that there is de-escalation instead of violence. And that's what the legislation that is currently pending in city council does. So you definitely want to support city council in passing that, and also support the mayor in passing that.
Mm.
So that's my summary of ways that you can help. We also, we're an immigration legal services agency. So what we do is provide free legal services to low-income immigrants in Pennsylvania. Although we primarily serve the 5 counties, we do have lots of clients in other places all over Pennsylvania who don't have access. We, like every other immigration attorney in the country, are drowning in calls. And it's another aspect of immigration law that could be amended, which is to say that if you're going to insist on detention, you should insist on right to free counsel. But right now, that does not exist. So most immigrants, unfortunately, are without attorneys. What I can say for Highest Pennsylvania, we are open for intake twice a week. And even if if we don't have the capacity to represent, we will talk to the callers about their situation. We'll provide information and advice, and we'll provide referrals to private attorneys who we have vetted, who aren't, unfortunately, there's been a lot of crooks who are taking advantage of the fear of immigrants. The attorneys on our list are attorneys who we know well, who aren't, trying to snow their clients, but they do charge. We do not charge, but capacity is a constant issue. So anyway, so anyone can call us twice a week to get information, advice, and referral. And when we have capacity, we'll take on their case.
Do
So
you
I think that rounds it up. Yes. Mhm.
do you have the times during the week that you do the intake?
Yes, I'll put that and the phone number in the chat. And I'll also
Okay.
put the phone number, sorry, the web address to our volunteer positions, which include the letter writing that I mentioned.
Thank you. Thank you. So
Yeah,
important. Some takeaways that I heard. You're continuing the reality that immigrants enrich the American experience, that there's training available, and the time to act is now at state, federal, city levels, and not losing sight of the bigger picture of the Immigration Act. Right?
correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Victoria, would you continue at this time?
Definitely. Hi, everybody. Bear with me if my voice gives out a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold. So thank you for having me here today. My name is Victoria Strois. I'm the director of Asylum Pride House. We are still a pretty young organization in Philadelphia. We work with LGBTQ plus asylum seeking immigrants, providing transitional housing, case management services, and initial resources. A lot of folks on this call have talked about, especially like the political environment that we're in and the impact that it's having on immigrant communities. For us as well, we're being very impacted by what's happening with the queer community. We work in this very intersectional space, working with immigrants and queer individuals. And so we have a little bit of a different lens, I think, in terms of being a very on the grounds organization, working day to day with all of our clients from varying stages in their application for asylum, and as well as living with us and kind of seeing them progress until moving into the community. And so that's kind of the lens that I'm going to talk about this at. So in terms of the folks that are coming to us, we're still seeing a pretty regular number of folks needing housing support. It's definitely slowed down a little bit because of the restrictions on the border, I think, have really impacted the number of people that are crossing, and then our more new arrivals, which is what we tend to focus on. Our housing is specifically for folks that don't have their work authorization yet, and are applying for some sort of humanitarian immigration protection, whether that is asylum or it could be for being a survivor of trafficking, torture. It can kind of vary, but generally under that umbrella of some sort of humanitarian immigration protection. So we've seen that slow down a little bit, but at the same time that the housing has kind of slowed down, the increase is where we've seen is needing case management support. And like everybody's mentioned on here already, the need for legal assistance. And that has become a very prominent part of our case management at this point. We are very blessed to work with a robust network of pro bono, full representation attorneys, and have almost 100% success rate at placing our clients with that kind of representation, which is huge. I think a lot of attorneys, anyone that is part of the LGBTQ plus community, feels really drawn towards supporting our clients. And so we've been very blessed in that regard. But it definitely is not without challenge, especially when it comes to, the not just the legal referral, but what all of that entails. It's not just connecting someone to an attorney and that's it. Our organization does a lot in part of assisting the attorney and getting the client to know how to talk to their attorney, to know how to navigate preparation before we're able to get that referral. So we're doing a lot of know your rights trainings with our clients because there's a really increased need for awareness around their different kinds of immigration status. We're doing a lot of like preventative measures, meaning that like if someone has an ICE check-in that's coming up, we're trying to get everything done before then because we know that the risk of someone being detained at their ICE check-in is significantly higher than it was a year ago. And we've seen it happen with our clients now. And so we're working very hard, knowing that that date might be looming for one of our clients. We're getting them forensic exams set up, which are like physical and mental health assessments that can corroborate their asylum application testimonies. We're working with them to just navigate the day-to-day challenges of like, what do you do if you're detained and we need to think about your apartment? How do we get your belongings? Do you have pets? Do you have family that we need to contact? Getting all of that information prepared before someone goes to something as simple as what should be an ICE kiosk check-in, which is where you just go up to this little machine that looks like it belongs in an airport and you just punch your information in and that's all it's supposed to be. But unfortunately, that has not been how it's been panning out. We have also been doing a lot of accompaniment to those ICE check-ins. And then kind of on the ongoing side of that is we're doing a lot of awareness around the need for support for clients in detention. We've had a handful of clients that have been detained, but also have reached out to us in detention saying that they don't have an attorney, that they need support, that they need, commissary and are being targeted in the detention facilities. Again, like I mentioned, that intersection of the queer community and the immigrant communities is really challenging for our clients. We've seen a lot of our clients be assaulted and verbally attacked in detention facilities, be put into I can't speak this morning because my voice is going. Solitary confinement because the officers just don't want to deal with it and they just think it's easier to lock up clients that are queer rather than trying to mitigate and do any sort of mediation amongst the populations that they have in the detention facilities. And so it's been really challenging for our clients. We've been trying to get as much therapeutic support to them, helping them pay for those sorts of communication fees because it's not free. Just to send a text, you have to pay for it. And obviously our clients are not working and are not able to, and they're in detention. And so that financial component has something our organization has taken on a lot more recently. If all of you aren't aware, this past year they started charging for asylum applications. It's $100 to apply for asylum, $550-ish for the work authorization, and then they've been kind of exploring this $100 annual fee for anybody with a pending asylum application. And so we've also been helping our clients cover those fees because, again, if you don't have your work authorization, which someone would not have if they're applying for asylum, they're at the best 6 months away from getting work authorization. That sort of financial burden is really high for our clients and something that they're not able to afford. Kind of in turn with that is because our clients are saving for those sorts of fees, or maybe they are trying to pay for a low bono attorney, we're seeing the need for in-kind goods to be way higher. We provide hygiene kits. We do housing supplies, whether that's like furniture, beds, sheets, pillows, towels. A lot of those we get donated, but sometimes when there's a really quick need, we have to go out and purchase them. We just had a family. One of our clients is a derivative asylum case, meaning that he reunited with his dad who won asylum, and all of his siblings and his mom are coming over, and they had no resources. They're been struggling to get. He's still waiting for work authorization, and his dad's been having really hard time with employment, and so we were able to get them beds and mattresses that are actually getting delivered today because the family's coming tonight from Turkey. And so we do that kind of very like rapid response work. And that's where I think a lot of folks might, if you're looking for ways to support what we're doing, that's probably the best avenue. Historically, we used to have a lot more opportunities for accompaniment, but because of the level of fear and anxiety that our clients are feeling, we're really limiting those interactions with kind of outside folks outside of our programming to individuals that can really continuously commit. If you're someone that knows that maybe you're retired or know someone who is that has the capacity to drive folks to appointments and wants to do that like really on the regular, that's a different story. I think we've had a handful of those kinds of volunteers, but for the most part, we're trying not to bring in just completely new people into our clients' bubble because it is very stressful. We do have like other more general volunteer opportunities with our organization. It's like if we have an event coming up, we might need volunteers for that. We usually have like wellness events activities where it's like going to the museum or, doing some sort of activity that's kind of a low barrier to access for our clients. And we try to invite community members into those spaces so that our clients can meet new people. But we're doing that a lot less now, unfortunately. So those are still something that is available. We have, and I'll share a link for our email list for volunteering. But I would say the biggest needs that we have are really coming down to like, supplies, furniture, bedding, those sorts of things, because we're really working in that housing space. We're very lucky to partner with the Sisters of St. Joseph. They have their own housing program for single men and soon to be women and children, but they also have a distribution center. And so although we don't collect the furniture, we partner with them for pretty much all of our furniture needs. And so if you are interested in doing some sort of furniture drive or, have things that you just want to clear out of your house, you can get in contact with them or reach out to us via email to say that, you have donations and you want to bring them. We also have a link on our website for hygiene supplies, household items that we go through like crazy. So I would strongly recommend that if your community is interested in doing some sort of drive. And then I'm trying to think if I missed anything else.
I think you covered.
And then in terms of training, and so we don't do like regular plan trainings. It's more based on when there's an interest. And so if your community wants us to come and talk, we're more than happy to do that. We do kind of a spectrum of talk, whether it's us coming and doing a formal hour presentation that usually includes talking about, what is seeking asylum, what it may be, is that different from other types of humanitarian protection, like someone who's a refugee, what does that look like for the queer community, what does our organization do to support? It goes into a lot more detail and is a bit more of an open forum for questions. So that's kind of the more detailed training that we do. And then sometimes it can be more informal. Maybe you just want like a roundtable conversation. So we're happy to do any sort of educational training in that regard. And so that would just be reaching out to us, doing an introduction via email, and then we can chat more about what that would look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. And you're hearing the theme that each of these so far is saying, as far as trainings, they're willing to come to you if you're a congregation and want to do this after a service or scheduling some other time. They can come and share insights as well as trainings. So, Peter, can we continue with you, please?
Sure. Thanks, Edward. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Peter Petamonti. I'm a co-director at New Sanctuary Movement, and it's a real pleasure to be here with you all this afternoon. So we are a faith-rooted organization. We do community organizing in over 40 congregations, both immigrant and allied communities across Philadelphia. Really grounded in our immigrant members and staff experience to kind of guide what we do. I think a lot has been said about what we're seeing on the ground, but in our accompaniment work and our casework and our ICE Watch programs, right, we over the last month we've seen an increase in ICE in neighborhoods, specifically north, northeast, and south. And I think my analysis of that is we're seeing some of the increased recruits from ICE. I was just reading the other day that 800 people had been released from the very weekend training program between October and January. And I think we're starting to see some of that in Philadelphia, where we're seeing more people or more detentions. And we are still seeing them looking for individuals. They're not doing blanket arrest. They do what they call collateral arrest, where they arrest people even if they're even if they're looking for like their brother and they're there too, they'll arrest them. And of course, as has been said, ICE check-ins are high risk check-ins right now, as well as outside the Criminal Justice Center. And I think for us, I think the other story, what we're seeing a lot is that the faith community has been very activated and is standing up. And that has been really inspiring. I think on this week in the Catholic lectionary, we read Leviticus, where right, like God is giving Moses a series of teachings and commandments to people. One of them is that we should not stand by idly when your neighbor is at life's at risk. And to read that while reading the news every day and picking up the phone every day and getting, calls to our hotline every day is one, a big challenge for people of faith, but also inspiring. Right? Like as a person of faith, like I really love the sort of the intersection of what we get to do is like bringing our holy texts, our rituals, our prayers, our songs out into the street, bringing those at vigils in front of ICE, having people of faith showing up when there is an ICE alert to confirm it's ICE, to document what's happening, to bear witness. Creative actions like covering the love statue with a shroud or building an altar at ICE and accompanying people to ICE check-ins or to court. And I think one of the biggest needs right now is for faith communities to speak out. I think around what's happening with ICE, but also we are in a moment where we are watching the erosion of our democracy and Trump moved very quickly toward authoritarianism. And if we look at that analysis, faith communities held a very important role as the moral voice and also as a main institution to say that this is wrong, this is against our core values, and we need to do something. And so faith community speaking out and and not just speaking but acting is I think critical right now. We've seen a big shift, right, where a lot of our immigrant members do not feel comfortable coming to actions or public events, and so this is a moment where we need like allies to really step up. We are doing, I think, some of those things, right? Like is coming. We have a weekly vigil, which I'll talk about in a little bit, on Wednesdays at noon, where right, like the faith community is present every single week, there bearing witness. And I think another thing is, right, like the ICE Watch is showing up, that knowing that ICE can't take someone without getting some pushback. And then as Kathy mentioned, the ICE out package is really important. And I think it's important to know, like, right, as she said, it can't stop ICE from operating in Philadelphia. I wish it could, but it can't. But if you think of it like, right, I sometimes think of ICE like an octopus. Although my kids get really mad because they really love octopi. But right, we might not be able to get the whole octopus out of here, but we can bind some of those tentacles. And the ice out legislation is an opportunity for Philadelphia to really bind some of those tentacles, to limit the ways that ICE can reach into people. And there's a reason why Trump wants local police and local cities to collaborate so much, is because it enables them to detain more people, separate more families, and hit those numbers more. And this legislation comes from years of experienced organizations seeing where the holes are in our current policy, so that it expands beyond blocking detainers, but prohibits all forms of potential communication, data sharing, and collaboration. And so there's a lot of momentum right now. We have 15 co-sponsors. I think a very concrete thing congregations can do is call your council person. We're hoping for the committee to meet at the end of March, come to that committee hearing. And you can also reach out to us to sign up for email alerts about other actions. The ways to get involved is, I think, one, right, we have a weekly vigil. It's Wednesday at noon. It's if you would like to host it, you should come over. You should come. You can sign up for a week. I will post the registration link. You can sign up, and then we'll send you some dates that are open. Basically, I think April onwards through August is open. But that's a moment where we get to come together to speak out about what's happening, to remember and pray for those who are impacted, and also to pray for change of heart, for conversion for the ICE agents. And have had beautiful moments there of like witnessing, I think, like offering bread to the Homeland Security agents who are there doing security. Um, and and then we also do, so ICE Watch, especially if you live in the North, Northeast, or Southwest, we should have a next training in March. But learning what that looks like, how to document, how to confirm, how to engage. Um, Accompaniment, we have a lot of people right now. If you are interested, you can still sign up, and we'll let you know when the next training is. And then I think also with the ICE out legislation, I can again share the link to get email updates so you know when the next one is coming. Um, and also around, right. So we build, like, part of what we're doing is building power to meet the moment now. Because this is a moment we need everybody, everybody. And so to connect in with either, right, like working with folks on the ground, or advocacy, or pushing for legislation, we're gonna need that now, but also in the future. Because as all of us know, this problem didn't start last year, January. So I can share those there. And yeah, I'll try to keep this short so we have more time for questions.
Thank you.
But thanks, everybody.
Really appreciate it, Peter. Thank you. And each of you are mentioning that there are trainings that will be available. Peter just mentioned that there will be a next training in March, and April has opportunities for the vigils, hosting a vigil, Wednesday vigil, right? Okay, making sure I got that right. Jay, are you able to help with a couple of the questions that have come through? As you're looking at that, I know there was a question for Victoria about waivers for fees, I think is how it was put.
Yeah, and I think Catherine might have mentioned it
Catherine.
in the chat, but yeah,
Okay.
right now there is not. There actually used to be a waiver fee for our clients, and that is what disappeared. So that is why they're paying those fees now. It used to be, when you go and apply for your work authorization with USCIS, you could select, like, I am applying for asylum, therefore I don't have to pay this fee. And now, they really took the opportunity to monetize asylum, which is really quite corrupt. So that's what we're experiencing, is really taking away those waivers. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm just looking through here. Jay, did you have another question that we could post up?
There've been several questions, but they've been
Answered in
responded
the
to already. they've been responded to already. The one question was with regards to the ice surge and the confidence we have that it's not going to happen. Well, in this climate, we're not confident of anything like that. But it appears that right now it does not appear that that's happening anytime soon. But again, as we know, things can change rapidly.
Okay.
All the other the questions have been responded to.
So
Um,
some of the things that came in advance, each of you have spoken to. For example, there were questions about food insecurity, especially with non-English speaking households, and Victoria, among others, said they're collecting, right? Then um, there are population-specific needs, rather from Turkish or Muslim or African or Haitian or Brazilian and the like. So there have been several of the responses that have at least touched on that. Is there any, just for any of our speakers, is there anything around that or collaborations that you would want to comment on?
I can say we have also we have volunteers who do things like food delivery, accompaniment, even some of very generous souls have driven people all the way to Moshannon, which is like 6 hours away, so that they can visit their loved one. And we're happy to do that, happy to have volunteers. We have lots of volunteers who are eager to help. Um, and yeah, so you can definitely sign up to volunteer to do one of those things on our page. And I think that Victoria and Peter have the same, but I'll shut up now. You can.
So thank you. With that being shared, for those who are on the call and for our panelists, um, people who registered have indicated that among them, they are ready to assist with food delivery, with bringing supplies to households, with clothing support, with laundry, sewing, with shopping assistance, with paperwork help. And I know that through a previous conversation with Kathy, that depends on your background. Like as far as immigration lawyers are really looking for immigration lawyers more so now than just someone who is an attorney that doesn't have that specific expertise. And people are willing to help with transportation, um, be keepers. So um, there's a host of people that we can share their emails with you so that you know the areas that they have interest in. But that being said, afterward, we'd like to share all of your contacts, Peter, Victoria, Charlie, Randy, Kathy, with those who have registered and kind of share so that you have an ecosystem, a list of people, of organizations, excuse me, congregations and religious communities who are saying, we are here, we are looking for ways to help. So is there something more specific? So here's the question for our panelists. Is there something more specific in that vein that would be helpful to you that we could help organize?
I know one thing, I've been approached by a rabbi specifically about organizing a pastoral visit to Moshannon. And in fact, what he wanted to do was go with a large group of diverse religious leaders to Moshannon, do a pastoral visit, and then perhaps engage in a kind of either monthly or quarterly pastoral visits so that they form a kind of bridge to the detainees' families and give them some comfort. So that's something we have talked about internally. I think we've also talked about it with New Sanctuary Movement, but I know that we didn't have the capacity to kind of organize it and get a bus. So if there's anyone here who would like to do that, I would be happy to put you in touch with the rabbi that I was talking to. I think it would be a great thing. Um, it's unclear whether you would be allowed into Moshannon for the pastoral visit. But we also were thinking, well, if they deny it, it's a great photo op for advocacy, right? They're
Mhm.
denying pastoral visits to give comfort to the detainees who really shouldn't be in detention in the first place. Um, and so it could be a one-time advocacy or a multiple time comfort giving, something you can do to support. So
Thank you.
excuse me.
So we will make sure that is in the follow-up that goes out so that perhaps we'll see if there's a coordinated response for that. And so there's a general question, how can we indicate interest to be involved in this? Rabbi Miller, is that for the bus in particular, or was there another focus for that?
Nope, you answered my question.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we're coming up on the time. I know we've some of the questions have been answered during what people are speaking. There may be some outstanding questions. Um, we will make sure that notes that come from this meeting will go out to each person that has registered for the call. Um, any additional resources that we gather in that time, we'll make sure to be a part of that. And then we'll look for you all, the panelists, as well as some of the conveners, if there would be a future opportunity for us to do a part two and convene you all back together. So we'll look to um, see if there's an organic need that we can fill to help convene that. So in this time, I just wanted to say thank you all for showing up in spirit and loving our neighbors with such wisdom and care, and give us just a little bit of time to get some follow-up and some notes out to you. Any closing words from our panelists? Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you all. Blessings to you, and we'll be in touch.